Hello, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome to the program. You're watching Smart 24 TV, where we drive your business. And this is, of course, the #1 channel that focuses on business 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I hope you're having yourselves a good time. And of course, thank you for joining us right now. You can also join our conversations on our social media platforms at Smart 24 TV, on Twitter, as well as on Facebook at Smart24 Official, as well on Instagram. You can visit Smart24 TV _, and of course you will catch the business content latest as it comes in. And of course, now this is Financial Markets, where we unfold some of the mysteries and demystify these mysteries for you, so that you can get to know how you can participate in the financial markets here in Uganda, in East Africa, in the region, as well as the continent and the globe. And definitely, if you want to learn more, you can still keep your eyes glued on your TV right now, as of course we fly into the financial markets. And my name is Anthony, your host. You can also follow me at Anthony Sebale on Twitter. Now, this show today is definitely going to be full of action. We have several things coming ahead. The Uganda Stock Exchange yesterday registered a very pretty much poor performance compared to the previous day of trading, whereas the Nairobi Stock Exchange actually registered the opposite. A very wonderful performance there, with over 50 of the 65 listed companies participating in trading, which is about 85% of the entire Nairobi Stock Exchange participating in trading. What's causing the disparity? What's new in Kenya? All that and more will be coming up on the show. We are all about saving and investing, making sure that you get a return on some of those things you're putting aside, or that those funds you're putting aside and you're not going to need in the long term. This is what the show is all about, helping you to make use of your money, to make a little bit more money. We understand we are in a very tough economic time. Finances are very hard to keep and much more harder even to get. But how come you can actually make money off the money you're keeping? That will be definitely by the help of the financial markets, and definitely we will help you to learn more about the same. Now, before we go any further, in the financial markets, we all know that we have debt instruments. These are the treasury bonds, the treasury bills, and the corporate bonds and commercial papers as well. These help to kind of help probably government, that is for the debt, that is for the treasury bills and treasury bonds. They help to get money for government, so that government can actually perform its business smoothly by enabling, of course, payments of the civil servants, providing social services, and so on, and financing the budget as well. And so we know that government gets money from the public through the issuance of treasury bonds and bills by the Bank of Uganda, who is the major financier of the government of Uganda. Now, recently on Saturday, there was a news article that was released about government's failure to pay Bank of Uganda. Well, this yesterday at around 11:54 a.m., the Bank of Uganda was able to revert to that particular article, and we are going to just take you through a little bit of that later. We would just like to, first of all, kind of break down the public debt for Uganda. How is Uganda doing with its public debt? Of course, as we lend government, we have to be sure that government can pay back. Is government running out of money? Are we having issues with payments of people who have been able to lend to government? Let's first have a closer look at that. Now, in a recent parliamentary report, it has painted a very gloomy picture of Uganda's public debt. Now, the portfolio of public debt as of the country struggles to keep up with the payments of the creditors. This is according to a certain parliamentary report about public debt of Uganda. Now, the Committee on the National Economy has revealed that Uganda's public debt stock increased by 22% from 50.9 trillion in the year 2019-2021 financial year to about 69.5 trillion by the end of the 2020-2021 financial year. Preliminary statistics, however, from the Finance Ministry captured by the committee indicate that Uganda's public debt stood at exactly 78.8 trillion Ugandan shillings, which is about close to 20 million US dollars, close to that. And they're saying that at 78.8 trillion Ugandan shillings, that was during about the end of the month of June, it represents a 13% monthly year-on-year increase. Now, the committee's report also revealed that 48.1 trillion Ugandan shillings of this public debt is actually classified as external, whereas 30.7 trillion Ugandan shillings is actually classified as domestic debt. That is where we are most interested in the domestic debt at the moment. Now, the telltale signs of public debt weighing heavy on the government has become more pronounced in recent months, and from dragging its feet over the disbursing of the parish model development resources to delaying payments of civil servants in the month of July, and of course declaring that things were actually not that easy. Now, Miss Catherine Bita-Rekwata, the Public Service Ministry Permanent Secretary, attributed the July delay of civil servants' pay to a spillover effect on the timelines for processing and making the payments of the salaries. Such, though, have been the mixed messages from the government, and that was because of some of its functionaries said that delay was tailored to the deal with the current inflationary pressures. While releasing the 2022-2023 financial year first quarter budget funds, the Finance Ministry Permanent Secretary and Secretary of the Treasury, Mr. Ramadan Gobi, was more forthright. He revealed that the disbursed funds had been sliced from 25% to 19% because the government is experiencing the cash flow limitations. Of the 4.7 trillion disbursed, of course, that's according to the parliamentary report here, it is reported that in July, about 230 billion was set aside for wages, pensions, and gratuity. A further 662 billion was assigned for servicing domestic debts. Now, only recently, Mr. Henry Musasizi, the State Minister for General Duties in the Ministry of Finance, admitted to the government's lack of credit. And this is, of course, when he appeared before the Parliament's Committee on Government Assurance to explain why there are no fuel reserves. Whereas, of course, they were committed to fully operationalizing the oil and gas sector, they are constrained by resource envelopes. And Mr. Musazi, of course, confessed that the money for fuel reserves will be added to the next financial year's budget. It was, in fact, the taxman that lifted the lead on the government's financial woes. And of course, the Uganda Revenue Authority disclosed that it was struggling to meet the 12.3 trillion revenue collection target for 2020-2021 fiscal year. Now, that is a report, of course, just a little bit about the report that we managed to get from the parliamentary committee reports. And now, when you look at the article that was released on Saturday in one of the papers, they say that the Bank of Uganda has not been able to get all its funds back from the government of Uganda, and it stated that the government fails to pay 11 trillion Ugandan shillings Bank of Uganda debt. And it says that the government is struggling to find cash to meet many of its statutory obligations, according to the leader of opposition, Mr. Mathias Mpuuga. Now, in response to this, just yesterday, the Bank of Uganda actually released a press release, and it says that in reference to this article, that government has failed to pay the 11 trillion that is owed by Bank of Uganda. It says that according to Section 4 of the Bank of Uganda Act in the year 2000, it mandates Bank of Uganda to perform the functions of the banker to government and the agent of government in financial matters. As a banker to government, Bank of Uganda can grant advances to government in accordance with the Bank of Uganda Act 2000 and the Public Finance Management Act 2015 as amended. In line with these laws, government obtained an advance of about 2.1 trillion Ugandan shillings in the financial year 2020-2021, which was subsequently repaid in full. Since then, no such borrowing has taken place, and therefore government has not borrowed 8 trillion Ugandan shillings, and there is no such outstanding loan from Bank of Uganda as purported by the article. Now, as an agent of government in financial matters, Bank of Uganda is a body that manages the issuance and redemption of the domestic debt securities on behalf of government. And of course, that's very clear. They are mandated to issue the treasury bonds and treasury bills to the public in order to facilitate domestic borrowing for government business. Now, this entails prompt repayment of the matured government securities to investors. Of course, after the end of the period of maturity, government is supposed to pay back the investors through still Bank of Uganda. Now, the current outstanding amounts due from government to Bank of Uganda relate to the reimbursables attributed to this role. Now, as at the 30th of June 2021, the outstanding reimbursables to Bank of Uganda stood at exactly 3.033 trillion Ugandan shillings, whereas during the financial year 2021-2022, the Bank of Uganda made repayments of all the matured securities to investors worth over 11.9 trillion Ugandan shillings and received reimbursements from government worth 11.602 trillion Ugandan shillings. That's a little bit lower because of the committee, probably the meeting policies for Bank of Uganda and government that are held. And so we are seeing that that is still a point of argument why you have 11 trillion 0.9 disbursed by Bank of Uganda in repayment, and then government of Uganda only issuing 11.6 trillion Ugandan shillings. Therefore, according to the article, government's outstanding reimbursables to Bank of Uganda as at the 30th of June 2022 stood at exactly 3.371 trillion Ugandan shillings. And in the current year, financial year 2022-2023, Bank of Uganda has made further repayments of the matured securities worth over 2.510 trillion Ugandan shillings and received reimbursements from the government worth 1.871 trillion, resulting in the outstanding reimbursables of about 4.01 trillion Ugandan shillings at 15th of September 2022. Detailed plans of government to fully reimburse Bank of Uganda on account of this role are still in place. And finally, the service level agreement signed between Bank of Uganda and the government of Uganda is intended to operationalize the existing laws referred to above, and of course does not purport to create or give any new mandate to Bank of Uganda outside the law. This was released yesterday, and we just hope to review that to make, of course, it clear that Bank of Uganda is saying it's in good terms with the government of Uganda at the moment, because the policy is government of Uganda goes through Bank of Uganda to issue these securities and is able to reimburse later on. And therefore, you can still be able to get yourself some of these instruments wherever you're watching us from. You can lend to government. And at the moment, if you can check out the website for Bank of Uganda, you will find several securities that are listed there. And in the treasury bills, we have 91 days treasury bills that were released on the 7th of September 2022 at a 9.31%, as well on the 14th of September at a 9.31%. And in the treasury bills as well for 182 days, we have those of 11.983% and 11.83% for the month of September, 7th and 14th of September. Therefore, we're going to take a very quick breather. We return shortly. We will still wind up with this story on the issuance of treasury bills and bonds and how you can participate and look into the stock market. We return shortly. Stay with us.